Good morning, everyone. I wanted to talk to you about life today because, after all, we all have one. The thing is, life isn't one of those things that you can try before you buy. I mean, once you're here, you can hunker down in a corner, or you can strap on your fabulous shoes and put your best foot forward. Either way, whatever comes will be coming. And on that note, I wanted to tell you a story about the kinds of things people think are going on when you're famous, when you have made it, when you're there in all your shining glory. It started for me, the very first time that someone said must be nice, when I was in the ninth grade and I won a prize for public speaking. And everyone said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know how you do it. I could never do that. I couldn't just get up in front of people and talk like that. I wish I'd been there. Gosh, I wish I'd seen it." So I'm going to tell you exactly what it was like. Because back in the ninth grade, I wasn't very good at public speaking. I was the hunker down in a corner type because I'm a military kid, and we moved roughly every 15 minutes. And I never knew where my house was, and I always felt like an idiot. So the first thing I wasn't going to do when someone said, "Hey, who wants to get up in front of the room?" was say, "Pick me." So anyway, there we are in the ninth grade, and I discover that you don't get to not get picked if that's the class project. Sooner or later, it's going to come to you, and you can call in sick, and you can pretend to have the measles, and you can walk around pretending you have strep throat, but eventually you're going to have to stand up and do the damn thing. And that's exactly what happened to me. Eventually it was my turn. Now, the thing that I had written about was the only thing I knew at the time about life. And that was, I had no idea what I was doing. Not the slightest clue. I was very good at listing all the things I couldn't do, because it was enormous. I could just pick anything randomly, really. And so my topic for this speech was the perils of being in grade 9. Grade 9 is the place you go to after the 8th grade, when you were the big man on campus. Grade 9 is where you are suddenly all over again, the smallest person in the room, and you have no idea where your house is. And you run into things and forget things, and people laugh at you. And you just soldier on because whatever comes will be coming. So that's what I wrote about. And I stood up in front of the class and I told it, and everyone laughed. And I thought they were laughing at me, because after all, they were looking in my direction. And they weren't really. I mean, they were. But what they were really laughing at was all the things that were true. I was telling them exactly what their lives were like, and they loved it. So did the teacher, unfortunately, and she said, "Oh, goody, we're going to win the competition. I'm picking you." And I said, "Excuse me?" "Yes, there's a big competition. The best student in each class is going to tell their speech in front of the whole school." And I said, "All righty then." And the day eventually came, because whatever comes will be coming. And I stood there at the bottom of a set of steps that led up to the stage, clutching 237 3x5 index cards that I couldn't read, of course, because the sweat from my palms had blurred the ink. And I waited, and I waited, and then the teacher smiled and nodded at me and climbed the steps and went to the podium and announced me. And the first thing she did was get my first name wrong. After that, she got my last name wrong. And then she said, "Never mind, dear, come up anyway." And I thought, oh dear God in heaven. And I ran up those steps as fast as I could, just to get it over with. And when I reached the top step, my toe caught on the lip of the stage. And I sailed through the air like a dying oak and landed face down on the wood and knocked all the breath out of me. Has that ever happened to you? You kind of lie there like a dying starfish on a beach, don't you? And a helpful voice from the audience said, "Oh my God, is she dead?" And I was mortified. So I leapt to my feet and I staggered around, limping because I had cracked my knees, and picked up all my 3x5 index cords, which had just flown across the stage like a bunch of leaves. And I got them all together and I turned around and I faced the audience and I smiled and I said, "The perils of being in grade 9. And of course, they loved it. They thought my opening was shtick. And everything I said after that cracked them up. I can't remember what it was. It's all kind of a blur now. But they laughed and they laughed and they laughed and they laughed. And I talked and I talked and I talked and I talked. And then at some point, I forgot where I was. And I looked down at my index cards. And the one I was holding on top was number 18. Or 81. It was upside down. I couldn't tell. And I looked at it and I looked up at them. And I said, "I don't know where I am." And a helpful voice from a crowd said, "You're on stage and you're owning it." And I said, "Oh, thanks very much. Good night." And I ran off the stage, hopefully into obscurity. But that wasn't meant to be, because I won the prize. And I had to go back up and accept it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is the moral of the story. You do need to be careful what you wish for, because whatever comes will be coming. Catch you next time.